Well, welcome to another episode of the Biz Coach Show. And if you're watching this episode, then chances are one of two things are true. Either you are a business coach looking to take your coaching practice to the next level, or you're somebody that is interested in learning more about business credit. So if you fall into one of those two camps, then you are definitely going to love today's episode because we're hanging out with Eric T. Whitmoyer, who's the founder and CEO of My Biz Coaches. And he knows a little something about business credit. And we're going to unpack some of the mistakes that people make when they're building business credit. So Eric, how are you doing today?
Doing well, David. Thank you very much. And yourself?
Yeah, man, doing good. Always good to hang out with you. And I know we got some good insights in store for the audience. So let's go ahead and dive in and get started. So mistakes that people make with business credit, what would you say is like the number one thing that people mess up?
All right. Before we jump into that, I want to take a minute because you actually said something that triggered me, and I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I probably should comment on this. You said
It triggered you in a bad way. Was it a bad trigger?
No, it did not.
Oh, okay.
No. You said that I knew something about business credit, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I should probably share a little bit about my path with that.
Yeah.
Because I think that speaks a lot to your point about what I do know about business credit. So for those who don't know, I had a pretty successful trucking business, was able to build that in a relatively short period of time. We went from 0 trucks to 26 trucks, and we were billing about $550,000 a month with inside of a year. It was about 11 months by the time we hit that threshold. And the reason that I was able to do that, I did leverage a little bit of capital, cash, but I was actually able to leverage a significant amount of business credit because I learned the tools that you need to have to utilize to be able to get banks to talk to you and offer you or allow you to use credit. Now, it did not have an ideal turnout, if I'm being honest. But my point is that at the end of the day, I was able to really scale up that business, and I did not take a ton of cash. I did not use a ton of cash to do that. I was able to leverage credit to be able to do that. Would not highly recommend that strategy, but I definitely know the ins and outs of how to leverage business credit. So that's certainly something that I think, as David mentioned, that I think, it is important for people who are listening to me to understand that I know because I've done it and how I was able to do it. And it was probably to the tune of $1 million plus, probably $1.5 million in business and corporate credit that I was able to establish and leverage to scale that business to the level that we did. So I definitely know a thing or two about how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think, for sure. It's not just, intellectual or academic understanding. You've lived through, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? And have definitely learned some lessons along the way. So it's great. Great intro.
I think it's appropriate for this one because as we talk about some of the things, some of the mistakes that you make, I can tell you what I had to do and how I had to do it to be able to get to the resources that were available. Because the resources are there, and the biggest gap is knowledge. I said this in the previous show. It's often what we don't understand. It's what we don't understand about the process is what keeps us from getting the credit.
Right.
I became a student of the process. And the more that I dug in and did research and understood this and asked of the right people, I was like, oh, so that's why I got turned down for this. So next time I'll do it this way. Right. Yeah. And so I became a student of that process and understood that. And consequently, going back, we recently established that there's a number of small business owners out there today with the economy the way it is, with interest rates where they are. You don't want to be leveraging personal credit to scale up a business.
Right.
You absolutely want to take advantage of the resources that are available, designed by law for our businesses to be able to take advantage of. So it's important to really kind of understand and take the time to understand these, how to leverage these resources.
Yeah. I mean, it is really fun getting rejected over and over again and learning from failure, right? I mean, I know that is a lot of fun. A lot of people enjoy that. But if there is a shortcut and a way to learn from somebody who's been there and done it and has some resources and can give you some good advice, that might actually be more fun. So that's what we're doing. Awesome. Well, let's get started with the first one. What's kind of the first mistake you see people make?
So certainly the first one is pretty basic, and we're actually going to have a few more than 3 just because, my propensity to want to over deliver. But the first one is pretty basic, and most people probably know this. However, they still choose to not always follow it. I've been in the past, I have made the same mistake, but mixing personal and business finances, that absolutely can be a detriment to you for a number of different reasons, not the least of which is the whole purpose of getting an LLC or a corporation and creating that separate entity, is that you want the corporate veil to protect you. And when you mix personal and business finances, you are piercing, or you're creating an opportunity for a judgment against you, but a legal proceeding to recognize that the corporate veil has been pierced, because you're mixing personal and business finances. And using a personal credit card to fund your business, which many business owners do, isn't necessarily, I don't know that it is or isn't. You'd have to check with a lawyer. But what I do know is it's not a good thing to be doing, and it does put you in jeopardy of piercing that corporate veil. So what I do know is you don't want to do it. And a lot of people do because they don't know any better. So mixing personal and business finances is a big no-no. And you absolutely, if you do use personal credit cards in the very beginning, you absolutely want to get off those as quickly as you can.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think that veil is super important, right? Whether it's, from a liability perspective or financial perspective, like we're talking about here. Yeah, definitely important. So good one to start out with. What's number two?
Number two, not incorporating your business. So I've said this on other shows before, as we've talked about credit and how important business credit, specifically corporate credit, understanding that you to actually establish business or corporate credit, or to be able to leverage the benefits that are provided by having an LLC or a corporation, having that separate legal entity to operate your business under protects you from a number of different things, not the least of which would be potential lawsuits or something like that against the business because something mistake was made, something was done incorrectly or whatever. Or in this particular case, as we talk about credit, right? Establishing credit in a company name. None of that can be done without a separate corporation. So you have to go and establish the LLC or corporation, and then you have to register for your EIN. It's your employment identification number. If you were going to have employees and you were going to pay them, you'd have to have that number, but you have to have the EIN to be able to establish corporate credit. Even open a corporate bank account, which is basic thing number one. Actually, one of the first things you need to do after you establish an LLC or a corporation, you want to get the business account, because without those two things, the likelihood of being approved for any kind of business credit is almost non-existent.
Yeah, that's interesting. As you're talking through these, right? These are pretty simple things, relatively inexpensive to do. And whether you need them day one or not, it's just going to set you up for success for business credit, but really just solid financial practices, right? Where you're not commingling funds and all the. So I think it may seem basic, but I'm sure as a coach, you dealt with quite a few people that aren't doing these very basic things. And it's a very simple starting point. Yeah,
agreed. And I would add to that statement, David, it's many businesses. I mean, if you think about it, many business owners, when they start out, a lot of businesses are started as side hustles, right? A lot of businesses are started as, hey, this is a side project on the weekends. And then it builds and grows to the point where, okay, now I feel confident enough to go and do this full time. Maybe it's whether it's a website business or it's some service business on the side or whatever. And so it's not uncommon. And so you're not going through this checklist of things that I should do to make sure that I'm ready to start my business. You just kind of randomly start doing some of this stuff. And you're like, oh, by the way, I should do this. Or you go to open your first business account and they're like, yeah, you don't have an EIN number. I'm like, how do I get an EIN number? Well, did you register as an LLC or a corporation? No. You could do it as a sole proprietor, but that's probably not your best option. Certainly not from a tax benefit in the situation, depending on your current circumstances. So make sure you check with your tax professional. However, in most cases, you almost always need, a number of these different things. Another point that I'm going to make, it's not on my list here, but if you go to establish business credit and you submit your to whether it's a business credit or corporate credit, if you go to establish it and you submit to the bank with a Gmail account or a Hotmail account, I don't know if it's even a thing, Hotmail anymore, but or any of these other free email accounts, you will immediately be denied. If you submit and you use your home address as your business corporation address, you will likely be denied. That's an automatic default. There's like 7 things that we have on a list that we share with our clients. And these are all like no-goes. If you do any of these 7 things, the bank's going to immediately deny you almost always.
Yeah.
So some of these things that I just listed are the things on that list of 7 things, because again, people don't know, they do it and then they get denied. And you mentioned earlier about getting denied over and over. It's because you're not following this process. So you can choose to do it on your own and figure it out, like I did the hard way, or you can choose to do what I did later on, which was I'm going to actually pay somebody to show me how to do this better. And then I did that, and then I went on to learn more about it. But but yeah, that's a yet another factor, right? Don't use a Gmail account or some other free account. You should have a domain name, website. That's another big one. Just having a website. Without a website, it's not a guaranteed no-go for business credit, but it is harder if you don't have, like I said, this list of 7 things that we highly recommend.
Well, and I think what's interesting about that too, right? It's going to help you with business credit, but all of those things you just mentioned are actually going to help you run a better business, period, right? Versus using your Hotmail to email customers or clients, or not having a website, or, all those different things. And so even if you're thinking, hey, I'm just small mom and pop, solopreneur, or, I'm just starting an employee, whatever the case may be, if you start taking those steps now, eventually down the road, you're going to need that financing. And so why not set yourself up for success within your business, but then set yourself up for business credit down the road by understanding that roadmap that you're talking about, that checklist of items. It just seems to me kind of silly. Why would you not at least put yourself on that trajectory, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So another big one would be your business plan. So maybe not necessarily for asking for business credit cards, depending on what the institution is that's extending the credit. So if it's like Shell or some kind of commercial account for some fuel or something like that, maybe minor repairs, probably not as big of a deal. But you start going for maybe even for your business, Amex, U.S. Bank, Bank of America, Capital One, maybe those likely maybe don't require a business plan. But I will tell you that you start going to the larger organizations that establish contractor credit, that you, let's say somewhere where you buy a lot of tools and resources for your business, equipment vendors, and certainly absolutely bigger banks where you're asking for, like, just say a $50,000 line of credit because you're a seasonal business and, access to capital during the slow times, right? Things like that. They're absolutely asking for a business plan. And most business owners get into a business, don't make a business plan. They make a business plan because they're trying to file for business credit. So the irony of that scenario is that they get into the business, they start running it, and then they're like, oh yeah, now I got to make a plan because I'm going to borrow some money. But business plan is another big factor. As a matter of fact, it was things like that I figured out. So because I could create a really good business plan and I could share that with the bank and show them I had consistency, not only saying what I was going to do, but doing what I said I was going to do. And I could show the track record. And that was one of the main reasons why I was able to get the additional financing to help grow the business.
Yeah, well, and yet again, right, we're talking about this in the context of business credit, but it's also kind of like, these are things you should be doing anyway. And the credit is maybe forcing you to have to do those things. And I think there's probably a reason for that, right? But I think, you've talked a number of times on the show about the business plan being kind of a living, breathing document. And I think, as you talked about assessing what you to do versus where you're at and how you adjust all those things. Again, just something that is going to help you with credit, but actually also run a better business, which is equally important.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So,
very good. Any other tips?
Yeah. So there's one or two others I'm going to throw out there in it. Well, this next two are kind of combined, but failing to register your business with the credit bureaus. So registering your business with the credit bureaus like D&B, Dun & Bradstreet, Experian Business, Equifax Business, obtaining a DUNS number from Dun & Bradstreet. There's some associated costs with that. It's a little bit extra time, well worth it, because once you establish yourself and register with the credit bureaus, that goes a long way. And in addition to that, don't ignore the importance of trade lines. Certain suppliers and vendors you do report. Not all businesses, not all lending institutions, not all companies who provide lending, I guess, credit, let's call it that. Not all companies that provide credit for their resources report to any of the credit bureaus. However, knowing the ones that do, which, by the way, we have a list of those and we make that available to our clients, knowing the list that do report to the credit bureaus is really important, because if you know which ones do report and you leverage those and you use those, that'll help you establish your corporate credit, we've talked about many times, faster. And knowing which ones are more likely to get approved for, there's kind of like an order in sequence that you want to follow for attaining those. So knowing which ones they are, which ones of your vendors report to the credit bureaus, and then leveraging those appropriately is really important.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think what I heard from that was, just as you're looking at vendors, I mean, that's a differentiating factor, maybe even if they're a little bit more expensive, but if that's a priority, strategic priority over the next 12 to 24 months is building business credit, you want to make sure that they are going to be reporting on those things. So just something to be aware of, right? And again, this is just part of your overall strategy. So cool.
Absolutely.
What else you got?
Yeah, then the last thing I'd probably touch on, and like I said, I could go on. There's probably about a dozen of these that I could go through, but building, this is kind of ironic, and you made a joke about this earlier, but building a relationship with the lenders, i.e. banks or credit institutions, or even vendors that provide credit, very important to understand. So as the trucking business that I built, as it was growing, one of the things that I learned was how you establish your relationships with your vendors is exceptionally important. And so one of the advantages we had is that our trucking business was actually really good. We had like a 98% on-time ratio. And so that allowed us, that the brokers that would provide us additional loads would put us in a priority list, and we would get them before other companies would, because we were consistently good about being on time. Now, that's not necessarily credit, but ironically, that type of relationship extends over into your other vendor partnerships. So the companies you buy diesel from, in my particular case with the trucking business, or the company we get our repairs done through, were willing to extend us $5,000, $10,000, eventually $20,000, $25,000 in repairs before they needed to be paid. Well, if I can extend out my repairs costs instead of having to pay for it before I pick up the truck, and I can have 15 to 30 days to pay for it, that's substantially different in regards to managing cash flow and things like that. I think another thing as it relates to that and managing relationships is, doing what you say you're going to do, and then, say you say you're going to do something, do what you say you're going to do, and being, honest with that expectation. As I said, as our trucking business grew, it was our responsibility, the fact that we would do what we say we're going to do, the fact that we delivered when we said we're going to deliver. Those types of conversations continued to set us apart from our competition, which allowed us to leverage more relationships. The first company I bought trucks from became a really good partner with them, and that allowed us to buy more trucks from them. And we got a good relationship with them. And they were like, hey, by the way, we've got 2 more trucks. Would you be interested? What year were they? What miles were they? Well, they called me instead of me calling them, and they had good trucks. And so I was able to take advantage of good deals because I had a good relationship with my partners. So I think that's another important part. And you do the same thing with your banks. So all of the people that are able to extend you credit and or resources, you should have relationships with them, so much so that you literally, like, we went out to San Diego. We were operating in California. We were in El Centro, California. We actually went to San Diego to meet with our broker. just to connect with them and have a conversation and maintain that relationship. So there's a lot to be said about maintaining relationships with the partners that you have, the vendor partners that you have. Not all of them are going to allow that. And certainly, I'm not having a conversation with Jamie Dimon from Chase Bank or something like that, but you get the idea. The people that are involved in your account, having an open relationship and regular conversations allows you to open that door and create new opportunities. Because I actually had, sometimes they would reach out to me and say, hey, we noticed that you're constantly using up all of your diesel credit. We're willing to work with you. And I said, well, that'd be great, because $20,000 isn't cutting it. And they're like, well, we want all your business. And I'm like, well, to get all my business, you'd have to more than double my line of credit to get all my business. What would that look like? Right. And it was like, so I need $50,000 and I want you to lower my interest. And because I was giving half my business to another company, and consequently they were like, okay, yeah, we can do that. I showed them that we were paying our bills. We showed them that everything was being done on time and all that kind of stuff. So they extended that and they actually gave us that opportunity. So I think that's one of the things that I would say the last piece is everything's negotiable. Don't be afraid to ask for something outside the ordinary. Don't expect it, but don't be afraid to ask for it. And then most importantly, keep those relationships open, because you never know how that can work as an advantage to your business.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. As you were talking through all of that, Eric, I'm thinking to myself, man, there's a lot of steps and there's things you have to know. And I got to thinking, somebody that is unfamiliar with this, it would be really cool if you had like a partnership with a company or two that could help them navigate this, depending on where they're at and their size and scale. So have you thought about anything like that?
That's a great tee up, David. I really appreciate that.
Hey, you're welcome. No problem.
Yeah. So as you know, we partnered with two separate companies. We've been working with Fund and Grow for a period of time, but leveraging that relationship even more so today, helping our clients understand the value of business credit specifically, and then how to eventually move from leveraging business credit to scale your business to using corporate credit, which is a better solution. But it does take time to build. So we recognize there's an opportunity for us to establish that and then move on. And then we have a separate relationship, which is relatively newer, with a company called Jay Galt. As an organization, we're a regional managing partner for Jay Galt, and we offer that credit education, corporate credit education program, and where we help people find access to resources like business credit and other tools, actual finance tools that they can leverage. As a matter of fact, Galt provides a series of different resources that we make available to our clients by being partners with us in that program. And we offer programs where they're coaching that incorporate that in with the program that we do.
Yeah, which is awesome. So I figured you had something, right? I mean, you were working something. So that's awesome. Well, cool. Well, hey, I'll just mention real quick, if you're interested in learning more about My Biz Coaches, if you're interested in learning more about business credit, if you're interested about learning how you can help businesses build their business credit, maybe you're a coach or a professional that serves businesses today, and you want to add that as part of your services. As we mentioned, right, My Biz Coaches and Eric, they have a number of partnerships and different affiliations that you can leverage to do that. And so it doesn't hurt to learn more and check that out. So if you want to talk to Eric or one of his coaches, learn more about any of those topics, just over to mybizcoaches.co, coach, or you can scan the QR code. And again, it's just no commitment, no obligation, no cost, just a way to learn more, maybe even get some free advice. If you're real nice to Eric, he'll give you some tips and pointers. And if you do need business coaching, either he or one of his coaches could definitely help you out with that, whether it's your business credit or anything else. So as always, Eric, a lot of great information and insights today, and we appreciate your time and expertise.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Talk to you soon, man.